so you know that she's very active in the market. So as the market goes up, goes down, goes sideways, she has lots of experience and can give you real life instruction. So Donna, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this call. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to teach us today.
Well, thank you, Linda. I'm glad to be on the call with you. And I'm excited to share this. I was so glad you asked me about teaching this little segment because, you know, there's so many cool things that you can do with notes. And, I mean, you can buy performing notes. A lot of people are into non-performing notes, which is another aspect of note buying that I teach. But sometimes, you know, just like you said, you think it's a complicated subject. I want to show you that it's really not that complicated. Because people think that in order to get really high rates of return, it's got to be this long, involved process. And there is a very, very simple way to get huge rates of return when you're buying discounted notes. And so I just want to zero in and focus totally on that for the next few minutes, okay?
Awesome.
Now, the first time that I realized the power of early payoffs was many years ago. This was one of the first notes that I bought, actually, within the first few months of me getting into note buying. And this note was it was secured by an office in a warehouse in Florida. And it had a fair market value of $235. There was a first mortgage of $133, and there was a second mortgage of $25,000. So the point of all that is it had a total loan to value of only 67%. And the idea behind that is that there's plenty of equity. This is a very safe note. This is not some risky thing that, you know, I want to show you that you can make high rates of return even on the safest of notes. Now, when these people actually contacted me, there was a second mortgage, and they were interested in selling part of it. And the second mortgage, it was a $25,000 note. It was interest only, which means every month they pay the interest, so the balance is always $25,000. And they didn't want to sell the whole note. And this is another technique that I'll share with you on another time about buying a partial. And so at the time that they called me, there were 39 payments left, plus this $25,000 balloon. And they were looking to raise $10,000 to buy some inventory. So they only wanted to sell part of the balloon, payments and balloon. So we struck a deal, and I bought all remaining 39 payments, but I only bought part of the balloon. From memory, I think it was $14,000 of the balloon. So when that $25,000 balloon would pay off, I would get $14,000 of it, and they would get the rest. Well, if you plug those numbers in your financial calculator, you find out that I'm getting over a 30% return on my money. Is that pretty good, Linda?
Yeah, I would say so. And I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Not many people are getting 30% return even on their real estate investments, you know. So I am
definitely not in the stock market, that's for sure. So
absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly. So if I just sit back and collect my 39 payments and collect the $10,300 of the $14,000 of the balloon, I'm going to make 30% on my money. Well, an interesting thing happened. I get a call from the Florida Department of Transportation, and they want to run a highway straight through this property. And so they want to know what my payoff is. So 8 months later, I get a check for over $15,000. Now, I'd also been collecting the monthly payments. So in 8 months, on a little $10,300 investment, I had over $6,000 in profit, which turns out to be an 88% return.
Whoa!
So you can
imagine. I'll do that one. Call me next time you have one of those deals, will you please?
Like, this was an eye-opener for me, you know? It was the first time that I had gotten an early payoff like that, and it totally blew me away. And I thought, gosh, I wish they'd call and run highways through all of the properties securing my notes, you know?
Yeah, really.
I got to tell you, Linda, that's the only time that happened, by the way. So don't.
Oh, nuts.
But
well, you know what? We give an award for people that turn lemons into lemonade. Well, you certainly turned lemons into lemonade on that one.
Absolutely. This was a great deal. But what occurred to me was, if they're not going to pay off on their own, what can I do to incentivize an early payoff? Okay? And so I put some numbers together, and do you know that, and I wouldn't really do this, but this is just for the sake of example. If I were to offer them, if I called up the payor and said, hey, you know, interest rates are really low right now, and I have a friend who is a mortgage broker, and I bet you he could save you some money on if you were to refinance. And if you would want to refinance, I'd pay $2,000 of your closing costs. Now, that's what I mean. I'd call them up, but I wouldn't really offer $2,000. But even if I gave up a third of that profit, you know, I'd still be getting a 64% yield on my money.
Wow.
And so think about that. Whenever you're buying a discounted note, what you want to do is it's really a good idea to have a mortgage broker on your team who can help people to refinance the borrowers, and you get them to pay off early. Now, I do have to tell you about one caveat that you really got to watch out for. So I had taught this at one of the big real estate conventions. And a year later, I go back, and one of my students comes up to me and says, Donna, I love your program. This is awesome. I did exactly what you said. And I bought this note, and I was getting like a 25% return, and I negotiated, and I got an early payoff. And I don't remember what her number was, but let's say it was 75%. It was really, really high. And she said, so this really worked. And I said, well, great. So what did you do then? And she said, well, to tell you the truth, I'd been really busy, and so I just put the money in the bank.
Oh,
Linda,
no.
I about died.
Oh, man.
Oh, no. I said, that's not what you do. You don't give up a 25 or 30% investment to stick it in a 1% CD or something, you know.
Really?
The key to making this grow wealth for you is that as soon as you get that money, you turn around and you go buy another note at a discount, you know, and you just keep on using that money until pretty soon you're dealing, you know, with 10 times what you started with. But so make sure if you're going to do this and negotiate that early payoff that you take the money and you reinvest it. It broke my heart when she told me that, you know.
She's kind of like, because if you do that, you're playing with house money, you know, because you're just reinvesting the money that your original investment.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So the bottom line here is that when your discounted mortgage pays off early, your rate of return skyrockets. And so I'm thinking, why is this happening? You know, I was new in the note business, so I'm learning. And what you have to realize, like, let's say if you do a loan to somebody, you're a private investor, and you lend somebody $100,000 at 10% interest. Well, if they pay off early, you're going to get 10% interest through the date of the payoff. And unless there's a prepayment penalty, that's all you're going to get. But if you have a $100,000 note, an existing seller carryback note that somebody wants you to buy, you always buy at a discount. It's just what's done. Rarely have I ever paid, they call it buying it at par. It means paying whatever the current balance that's owed, paying the current balance on the note. You don't do that. You always buy for less than what's owed. So, like if you have a $100,000 note and you buy it for $90,000, well, you're going to get the 10% interest that's already coming to you on the $100,000. That's a given. That's what you bought. But the extra is that $10,000 discount. That's your bonus money. That if and when they pay off early, you're going to get an extra $10,000. You're going to collect that money. And that wasn't part of the original note deal. And so that's what allows your interest rate, your rate of return, I should say. That's what allows your rate of return to go through the roof when you get an early payoff, because you're not just getting the 10% interest that the people are paying on the note, you are realizing the discount that you negotiated up front. And the other piece of that is you might buy a note and you negotiate this discount, but you're expecting to get it paid back to you over the next 30 years, spread out over that whole time. Well, if instead of having to wait 30 years to get your money, all of a sudden you get your money in a matter of 6 months or a year, that causes your rate of return to go up. And a lot of people don't realize the power of that early payoff. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That is amazing. It's why a lot of people that are listening to you right now have experience buying real estate, and they borrow from hard money or something like that, and so they're used to running it out as long as they can. But if you do get paid sooner, if you pay off the hard money lender sooner, the hard money lender can reinvest that money with somebody else, and so their rate of return goes up. So that makes a lot of sense.
Well, the hard money investor, he probably charged points instead of buying at a discount, but you are exactly right. He wants that money because then he can turn around and loan it again and collect more points. So the hard money lending is a little bit different than buying at a discount, but the principle is the same. The quicker you get your money back, then you can turn around, buy another note, and do